you feel drawn to walking the Camino but aren't sure if you're actually ready to do it, this video is for you. Most of us try to think our way into readiness, reading one more blog post, or buying one more book, or watching one more video, hoping that this one will finally make it clear. I did that too before my Camino. Hey, I'm Tracy, and I completed the French way in September 2025. And what I learned is that readiness for the Camino rarely shows up as certainty. It shows up in quieter, more subtle ways, signs that are easy to miss if you don't know what you're looking for. So in this video, I want to walk you through the signs that actually mean you're ready to walk, even if it doesn't feel that way yet. Sign number one, you're more curious than confident. The first sign you're ready isn't confidence, it's curiosity. Confidence says, I know I can do this, but curiosity says, I don't know what will happen, but I want to find out. Before the Camino, I had so many doubts. I don't think I ever had a moment of 100% certainty that I was ready. I was worried so much about my body, like would it actually hold up day after day? And how all the logistics were really going to work out once I was out there, and whether I was biting off more than I could chew. But underneath all of that, there was this curiosity that wouldn't go away. What would happen to my body and mind if I walked every day? What would it feel like to live that simply for that long? What thoughts or ideas may surface if I gave myself that much time and space? That curiosity mattered more than confidence ever could, because confidence disappears the second things get hard, and believe me, they do get hard out there. Curiosity is what keeps you walking when confidence falls apart. So if you feel curious even without certainty, that's not a reason to wait. That's often the first sign that you're ready. Sign number two, you feel a pull that you can't fully explain. For me, the Camino didn't start with planning. It started with this feeling I couldn't really explain. In 2024, both of my cats passed, and when my second cat was diagnosed with cancer, the idea of walking the Camino came up, and it stayed with me. I didn't know when I would go or how it would all work out. I just knew it was something I was going to need to do. And I didn't act on it right away. I wasn't researching routes or dates yet, but the idea kept coming back. And over time, that pull turned into planning because it became obvious the idea wasn't going to go away. And that's the distinction that mattered. Readiness doesn't always show up as a clear plan. Sometimes it shows up first as a pull or a sense or a feeling you can't really explain. The plan comes later. So if you feel a quiet sense that the Camino is something you need to do, even if you don't know when or why or how yet, and that feeling keeps returning, that's often a sign that you're ready. Sign number three, you're comfortable being uncomfortable. This is the sign that most people underestimate. No amount of preparation makes the Camino comfortable. You can train, you can plan, you can do everything right, and there will still be pain. I trained for a couple of months before starting, and I genuinely believed that I was physically prepared. And within days, that belief completely fell apart. On day two, walking down into Zubiri, it took me almost 8 hours due to the amount of extreme pain I was in from my knees. Everyone was passing me, and by the time I arrived, I was in tears. And on day three, walking into Pamplona, I honestly couldn't imagine how I was supposed to do this for another 30 plus days. Some days on the Camino, my entire job was just to get to the next bench. Not the next town, not the next destination, just the next place I could stop and rest. And honestly, even that felt excruciating at times. My inner dialogue was brutal. Why did I sign up for this? Is something wrong with me? What if I can't finish? I thought about quitting more than once, and I want to pause here because a lot of people assume that if you think about quitting, it means you weren't ready. I actually think the opposite is true. Being ready doesn't mean you breeze through the hard parts. It means you're willing to stay when things are uncomfortable without turning that discomfort into a story about failure. So if you can imagine the Camino being uncomfortable, slow and painful and imperfect, and the idea still doesn't scare you off, that's a sign you're ready. Sign number four, you trust yourself to handle whatever comes. Before starting the Camino, I was especially worried about my back because I have a history of back issues. And even before day one, I kept thinking about what might happen. Now, nothing ever actually happened with my back, but the anticipation was intense. At the beginning, every little sensation made me panic. I think this is it. This is when it goes out. And all I wanted was certainty and reassurance that nothing would go wrong. But somewhere along the way that shifted. When my knee pain took over, my attention had to move out of my head and into my body. I stopped thinking about everything that might happen and started paying attention to not only what was actually happening, but what I could do about it. I got a knee brace, I took more breaks, I adjusted my pace, I managed the situation day by day, and that's when I realized something important. What mattered wasn't trusting that everything would go smoothly. It was trusting that I could handle it if it didn't, trusting that I could adapt, trusting that I could listen to my body, trusting that I could make decisions as things unfolded. And that's a different kind of readiness. So if you don't need a guaranteed outcome, if you trust yourself to figure things out as you go, that's a sign you're ready. Sign number five, you know your why and can come back to it. One of the hardest parts of the early days for me was comparison. People would try to slow down and walk with me and eventually leave me behind because I just couldn't keep up. I watched people 20 or 30 years older than me pass me on the trail. Because I was walking so slowly, I missed out on group walks, I arrived later to towns, and I had less energy to be social. I started telling myself a story that I was doing something wrong. I'd see groups laughing together like old friends and feel jealous, like I'd messed something up. Eventually, though, I found my people, and one of the friendships that mattered the most to me started because I was walking slow and alone. She was also walking slowly, and when we started talking, she shared something that really hit home with me. She said that before the Camino, she had gotten very clear about why she was going. She told friends and family no when they asked to join because she knew she needed to do it alone and have the experience be her own. And then once she was actually out there walking alone, she had these moments where she felt a little sad when she saw groups together walking. But what she realized was important. She had gotten exactly what she asked for. She was walking alone, the way she had wanted to. And that meant she could walk at her own pace and be in her head when she needed to and still connect with people when it felt right. And I remember saying, "That's exactly me." And that moment helped me remember my own why. I chose to walk the Camino because I needed time and space alone to process and heal and think and just let things surface at their own pace. I realized walking alone wasn't a failure of the experience. It was the experience, or at least my experience. We all come to the Camino for different reasons. Some people are there for community, some for solitude, some for challenge, some for healing. So, of course, our Caminos don't look the same. What matters is whether you know why you want to be there and whether you can come back to that reason when comparison creeps in. So, if you know your why and you're willing to let the Camino look different for you than it does for others, that's a sign that you're ready. Sign number 6, something in your life feels complete. Before I walked the Camino, a chapter of my life had already ended. Both of my cats had passed, I had sold most of my belongings, quit my job, and let go of the life I'd been living for so many years. I was standing at the end of something without knowing what came next. For me, the Camino was about giving myself time and space to process, to let things settle before starting something new. And on the trail, I met a lot of people who had arrived at the Camino at the same place, after a relationship ended, or a career wrapped up, or a long chapter closed. So if a chapter of your life feels complete and you're not rushing towards what's next, that's a sign that you're ready. And the Camino can be a really supportive place to walk through the in between. Now, you don't need all these signs to be ready. Here's the most counterintuitive thing I learned while walking. You don't need to be ready for the Camino. You may not ever feel fully prepared. You may not feel completely certain. There will always be something more that you could train for, plan for, or think through one more time. But that's not what readiness actually looks like. If you feel the pull, and honestly, the fact that you clicked on this video tells me you probably do, that's the readiness. The Camino doesn't ask you to be perfect. It just asks you to take the next step and let the walking do the work. Buen Camino.